Thanks for tuning into another talk here at the Product-Led Festival. Hope you're enjoying the event so far, because we've got even more juicy knowledge and insights from product-led pioneers heading your way. Remember to have your questions ready and get the tailored answers you need from the experts themselves. Sit back and enjoy.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Modernizing Product and Customer Marketing Analytics. I'm really excited to talk to you today about how we've tried to tackle these different challenges around product and customer marketing analytics here at Fivetran. So just really quickly, an introduction. My name is Catlin Urgitano. Everyone calls me Cat, and I am a product marketing director here at Fivetran. In a former life, I was an academic, so I have a PhD in philosophy. And previous to coming to Fivetran, I worked at an ad tech company doing online advertising to the travel industry using lots of big data and machine learning. So I'm very well versed in some of the challenges that can come with customer and product marketing and all of those good things. And so we'll talk about how we can solve those today. So if you're not familiar with Fivetran, we are the world's leading automated data pipeline, and our mission is really just to make access to data as simple and reliable as electricity. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of talk about how us as a company, how we've grown, how that growth has forced us in really great ways to expand how we think about our own customers and product-led growth, and how we use our own tool to help fuel some of that analysis and insights and really tackle some of those really big challenges, not only for ourselves, but also for our customers. So I think that'll also hopefully give you a better sense of who we are and kind of what we're all about. So we are a really cool, fast-growing company. We have over 2,000 customers all around the globe, all in all different types of segments. And we have a lot of really wonderful accolades about our growth, about what a great place we are to work. And all of those things are so wonderful and so true. But as anyone who's grown fast knows, there's growing pains and there's challenges to that growth. And so essentially what happened in 2020 is we really saw and were fueled by this big round of funding. So we actually raised $100 million for a $1.2 billion valuation, which is phenomenal and wonderful. But what that brings is, at least for us, this need to really shift the way that we were thinking about our growth and the methods we were using to grow our business, to adopt more product-led growth or PLG efforts, as well as sales-led growth. We don't want to stop doing that. If it's working, keep going. But we know if we want to scale to that next level, we need to do things that in the platform and throughout the customer lifecycle help them grow without having to always talk to somebody at Fivetran, especially if we want to make that access to data as simple and easy as electricity. You don't call somebody to go flip your light switch on, you just flip it on. So we really wanted to think about how we can make the product itself help fuel not only our growth, but our mission, and also just make our customer lives better. So that's where we decided to really focus on PLG. So I'm going to talk about a few different campaigns we've run, some of the successes we've seen with our PLG efforts, and then we'll also get into challenges, which and how we tackle those challenges, and I'm sure many people here can relate to. So I think one of the most important things for us and for me when I started around all this PLG effort is that the leadership was bought in, excited, and advocating for programs. So if you come from a really sales-heavy org or an org who is not necessarily open to what might seem new and radical, it can be difficult to get some of these PLG efforts adopted at your company. And so this was a really big success and one that we shouldn't overlook. If you're struggling to get PLG efforts off the ground, getting leadership bought in, excited, and advocating for the programs is wildly important. And having that exec sponsor is really important to any type of success. We also then work to really enable individuals, so like starting from the top and then working our way down, able individuals to have the tools to be able to shift how they were thinking about their work and what PLG could do. So we funded things like classes, books for people to read. We did workbook groups and we took classes together and had discussions around this. And this really allowed those in our internal teams, myself included, to understand the mentality, look at some of the best practices, and begin to figure out where we could implement. And this, again, I mean, a lot of this still comes from that leadership buy-in, but if you just tell your teams like, go do PLG, bye, right, it's not going to be as successful. You need to begin to give them the tools of people who've already been doing it to help them be at the very least inspired as to what they could take on, and at the very most kind of exactly know where to get started. So the other thing that was really important and I think unique about Fivetran is we really empowered multiple teams to own and drive initiatives. So I'm on the product marketing team and we were given a lot of ownership, autonomy around what it meant to do PLG. We also had PMs, our product managers, doing it, and then as well customer marketing. So I'll give some specifics of this, but I think that this is really important and really exciting when you think about PLG. Because oftentimes what happens is you're like, this new initiative, we should only run it this one way with this one team. And if you think about that in comparison to, let's say, sales-led growth, that's not how sales-led growth goes, right? Different teams, different segments, you have a flow of different people. I mean, they're all rowing in the same direction, but they're empowered and enabled to do what they do best. And so I think that approach is really important when it comes to product-led growth as well, to allow different teams to test out and try different things. So some examples of the product-led growth campaigns, experiments, programs that we ran and are continuing to run, to be frank. So we have amazing growth product managers who are laser focused on very specific moments within the product to try to improve. So one example is improving the trial flow. So we offer a 14-day free trial of our platform. And so making sure that that trial flow was guided in a way that helped ensure people were set up for success as quickly and as effortlessly as possible. That is kind of our mission and our promise. And so if people are fumbling with that in the trial, we are not delivering on our promise. So that was one place where, for instance, that growth PM focused and did a lot of in-app, in-platform guides and helps and experiments to get the product to lead them to the place where they're successful, as opposed to having to jump on a call with a CSM, a customer success manager, and get help there. We then had a dashboard product manager, and their focus is really on improving a whole selection of things past the trial within that dashboard. So for the first few months, as far as product-led growth there, the focus was really on improving our connector pick list. So as we talked about, we're a data pipeline. So what we do is we take all of the data that someone has in all of their platforms, and we pull it out, we replicate it, and we put it into their data warehouse. And so we call those things connectors. So let's say you're doing advertising on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and you want to be able to analyze that in your cloud data warehouse. You would connect those different platforms through Fivetran. So if we can improve that connector pick list, make it easier for people to find what they're already looking for, what they already have in mind. And that can either be, I know I have that data source, and where can I find it? We have so many data sources we support that it can be, you have to scroll through a lot of them. So making it easier to find. And then as well, if you've got like a project in mind, like, hey, I'm trying to solve my marketing analytics project, what would be the suggested connectors, right? There's kind of two different ways you can think about that. So again, using the platform and the product itself to help do that work. And then my team, which I'm super stoked about, we are the solution product marketing team, where we are really focused on helping people solve whatever problem, project, or solution they're running. And so the PMMs on my team, myself in particular, I started this off, worked on running very tailored, specific campaigns to understand and nurture customers throughout their first few months. So if you think of growth as doing that trial, dashboard is the general experience. Then once someone has said, hey, I'm working on marketing analytics, we created a very tailored campaign every month to help understand what's slowing their project down, give them resources to help them do those projects, reach out and talk to them about their projects to help understand more what we could do. And so really create this tailored nurture. We also used our PLG efforts to do things like NPS outreach. People in the platform. How are the people coming into the platform every day, experiencing us and thinking about us? Different than people who are just getting this via email and don't come into our platform that often. And then we also started to do just more product pushes and product announcements in that platform. So that way, again, we don't have a CSM on the call calling someone up and saying like, hey, you should add this new thing that we just came out with, or sending tons and tons of emails. Instead, letting the product really bring that growth about for the customer and ultimately for us. So these are all very, very exciting. And that's a lot of work, very frankly, wrapped up in a very few bullet points. But with all of those work, with all the excitement comes challenges. So one of the, I said, successes, I think, is having all of those different teams running all of those different campaigns. But with that is going to be a lot of data being generated in all of these different ways and all of these different teams. So how do you bring all of our different teams together to see what learnings are across all of these projects? And then how do we begin to take all of these different elements within a particular campaign and connect that to revenue? So that way we can say we influence that revenue. And then we want to take all of the campaigns and talk about all of the revenue this product-led growth has brought together. And there's a ton of tools doing this for sales-led growth because that's a really well-established system. But when it comes to trying to tie all of these disparate pieces of data together for product-led growth, that can be really, really difficult. And so that is really this data wrangle struggle that I want to talk about, how we kind of solved, how we are always, it's a constant wrangle struggle that we are working to solve, and how we're solving that not only for ourselves, but also for some of our customers as well. So I just want to take like one step back, because I think sometimes when we get too into the weeds on particular projects and programs, we lose the goal of what those are. And I think having that goal in mind can really help center us towards what we need to be trying to achieve, what that wrangle is for, what all of that data is going for. So according to McKinsey & Company, the goal of marketing analytics, and frankly, I think this can be expanded for product analytics and sales analytics, anything that has to do with your customer, is that companies should create an integrated 360-degree view of their customer that considers every customer behavior. And that is really what you're doing with product-led growth, is trying to glean those insights from your platform, from your product. What are they doing? What are my customers doing? What are they engaging with? And how does that indicate to me that they're having a good experience, that they're ready to grow, that they're contracting? Like, how do I understand that? And so rising to that challenge of how do I understand that is a lot of tools. So this is the 2020 vision of the marketing technology landscape. So if you took the time to zoom in on this mess, what you'd see is each of those little pixels are essentially different tools that marketing teams, product teams can use to help do that job of understanding their customer. And so there are over 8,000 different solutions to help understand what your customer's doing, how to get them in, how to make sure they're having a good experience. And that is where the problem lies, or therein lies the rub, right? Is that marketing leaders say that they are actually only using about 58% of their MarTech stack's potential, their marketing technology stack's potential. And why is that? Well, part of it is because there is so much data being created by these different stacks to analyze and understand that 360 view and hopefully to action against. So data is actually the fastest growing category in MarTech, up 25.5% year over year. And it really is, well, for many people, data is, like the new oil. It can create a lot of challenges because the number one reason for teams struggling to measure marketing is that difficulties in integrating these systems. If you're using all of these different tools to do customer marketing, product-led growth, sales marketing, all of this to understand that 360 view, integrating it is very, very difficult. In the example I was giving, we were just a group of people on very similar teams using 1 to 3 tools to try and create these very incremental movements and line that up to customers, to revenue over time. And that's just one example, right? Try to bring that into the larger ecosystem of our customer engagement. It becomes very difficult to integrate all of those systems. So what's happening as a result is that we're seeing CMOs' IT spending is said to already outpace that of CIOs. And the reason for that is the more tools we're giving to marketing and product teams to do things like PLG and customer marketing, it's creating more data and ultimately more need for IT services. This is actually, frankly, something I'm very excited about. I'd love to see CMOs and marketing people in general getting more into the weeds about how to get more out of their data, how to get things out of their platform, and really start to use them to create that 360 view. So how do you solve this larger problem, right? That we saw in a microcosmic way within what I was talking about with our PLG efforts, but is really a larger problem with marketing, customer marketing, and product analytics in general. So there's a few different ways you kind of go about this right now. The first is to compare data across platforms. So these are just some quick snapshots of different marketing platforms where you're trying to pull what is essentially the same types of information. That is, here's just ad spend. So some of our campaigns, even for product-led growth, we will do targeted ads about things that they've done in the product to try and drive them back into it and finish an action, let's say. So if you're trying to compare data across platforms, each different platform defines some of these things in different ways. They tell you that, give you that data in different ways. They visualize it differently. So if you've ever tried to kind of figure out what's happening within platforms across platforms, it's really a struggle because you can't really compare apples to oranges given all the different, even, right, Facebook has different, as an example, it's different standard look back windows than some of the other platforms. So you have to know that nuance, take that into account when you try and do some analysis. So what is the next step? Okay, we've all agreed, I think this is a nightmare. So the next step is to download the data from those platforms and import them into Excel, because at least then you're working with the data itself rather than the way that platform is trying to identify that data or visualize that data, right? And this is absolutely a step in the right direction insofar as taking that data out of the platform to put it in a place where you can run analysis off it, compare it, combine it is really important. But this very quickly gets unwieldy as you begin to bring in a lot of different data types, as you begin to bring in a lot of different platforms, because even out of those platforms, they look different, they act different, and very quickly you arrive in what we call Excel hell, because this is just very difficult to manage. And by the time you're actually able to derive any insights about what kind of influence your PLG or your customer marketing campaigns had, it is probably 2 weeks old. It is probably, you'll have another question, a follow-up question to ask that is not answered, and you have to go back and pull that data all over again. And in PLG and in customer marketing, 2 weeks is sometimes about 13 days too slow if you're trying to run these campaigns and catch people in the moment in your platform. So then the last way that you can kind of do this, depending on the size of your company and the size of your team, is to put in requests from your BI team. Now, the challenge with this is that depending on how they go about this, it can actually also be just as slow, just as time consuming, and you're just getting more and more people into the mix. Because what you have is a user ask somebody that they need the report. I want to be able to see the impact of this campaign on my customer expansion. That analyst doesn't have that metric, has to go find where that data source is, maybe go build a whole data pipeline to be able to access that data, pull that in, do this verification. And again, if anything changes in that request or anything in that report is we want additional information, that whole thing has to happen again. And ultimately, you can get bottlenecked, once again, by your BI team. And so it's all really about how can we do this better? How can we do this in a modern way? We've identified this need to move forward in technology, but we keep using these same systems and same tools to do these analytics. And so one of the reasons why we do this is because this endless back and forth is because of the way in which, even if you get to a more technologically forward-thinking system, what you're doing is many people are doing it very kind of old school, where you either have on-premise databases that store all of this data and you are extracting all of that data from it, you are transforming it So doing that modeling of like, hey, show me how many people engaged with this thing and then took this action. And then you load that data into data warehouse in the cloud, or you could load it into a BI tool, kind of depends. And then you have that view for your executive audience. And then the executive audience might look at it and go, oh, interesting. Well, what I noticed there's this like dip up here. What is that about, right? And you have to go do that whole system again because that's not the data you pulled. You didn't pull a data that would answer that question. So that is really where this modernization of analytics is coming in, something that we are trying to do ourselves and we're trying to do with our customers as well. So this is really bringing ELT. We talked about that previous is really called ETL, extract, transform, load. So what we're doing here is bringing ELT to marketing analytics, into product analytics, and to PLG. So what this means is that you take all of those data sources, all of those apps, all of those platforms, and all those systems you're using to run all of those different campaigns, and you extract all of that data. So you don't just pick and choose. I mean, you can if you know exactly like what tables or what you need, but you pull in all of the data that you need through Fivetran, right? And this is where we come in as the automated data pipeline. So we go and do that pulling for you. So that way you can, one, not have data engineers kind of always maintaining these really brittle data pipelines, and instead focus on super meaningful work like that analysis. So with all that data in your data warehouse, then you transform it. Then you ask questions of it. Because what you're doing with all that data in that data warehouse is you're making sure it's fresh, it's up to date, it's complete. And so what you can do with that data then is ask it a variety of questions and know that you have the most complete data. You don't have to go back and re-pull data, it's all there. So you do your modeling and then push all of that into your BI tool to be able to have those discussions about what's working and what's not. That is the real modernization when it comes to analytics. So let's talk about how we've done that for a few customers, because I think that's a really cool place to kind of start and see how it works. So one example is Tide. And so they really wanted to connect their customer feedback to their user journey so that they could figure out exactly where there was issues in the product and understand the benefits of resolving those issues. So you see here all of those different connectors that they're bringing in, because all of those were moments and touch points with their customers and with their prospects. So bringing in all of that data source helped them to begin to create that 360 view, to see that journey from acquisition to retention to lifetime value. So I think it's a really cool, really important example. Another really cool example that I like is New Relic. So New Relic is more of like doing a little bit more in the finance realm, but they needed to get that really real-time accurate information to help inform their product-led growth, right? Like if I'm doing product-led growth, I'm doing all these moments, but it's not leading to revenue that I can measure and drive towards conversions, then we're leaving, as they say, money on the table. So it's super important for them to be able to do that. And Eric Jones, who's just a wonderful, talented, smart human being, gave this great quote: with a data-driven approach, we're identifying customers that may have otherwise fallen through the cracks for renewal recommendation and growth opportunities. It's the first time that we've had this level of granularity and visibility into our business. So it's really about, again, that like modern data stack. You have all of your modern tools and platforms and systems. You're pulling that all in through Fivetran into your data warehouse and doing all that really cool analysis. The final one I just wanted to highlight was Square. It's a really big company, and so this is just to show that big companies have these challenges too. So this marketing team was having trouble integrating data from global partners, and they're spending all of this time trying to figure out how to bring all these different tools together, how to use chatbots for lead qualification, build sales enablement tools based off of all the questions they were getting from their customers, and do product improvements. And so by working on this modern data stack, by bringing in Fivetran, they were really able to do the innovation that they needed to become that $20 billion public company that they are. And so finally, I just wanted to show like kind of what this is, a snapshot of a Sigma dashboard that we have, where we've really tried to put our money where our mouth is. So in some of those PLG efforts I was telling you about, we were using Pendo, which is a platform that allows in-app pop-ups, app queues, right? It's really a cool, flexible tool. And so we were trying to figure out, are these leading to additional connectors being added as a result? And so what we did was we used Fivetran to take those data out of Pendo, take our Salesforce data with all of our account data, take our revenue, and begin to see, okay, here we have these unique customer views by guide. So which guide is it? And then we can also be able to see, did they end up taking the action that that guide was about? Did that action result in revenue? Not all of our actions, not all of the things we're trying to get customers to do are always about revenue. And so we actually created our own dashboard using the exact kind of modern data stack that I was talking about. So it's very cool to like work at a company that is not only trying to help other people become modern with their analytics, but also does it ourselves and really kind of understands these challenges and faces them head on with our own tools. So to summarize and kind of conclude here, it is really like I am so excited and inspired by product-led growth and product-led growth initiatives and methods. And it is exciting when you empower your company and your teams to run fast. But the faster those teams run, the more of a mess data-wise we can make, because we're trying to make things done quickly. We're trying to get things stood up. And so data wrangling becomes a real challenge. And you have to meet those new challenges with new tools and new methods, because you can't just keep doing the same thing that you used to do or old school ways when you're trying to embrace new school methods. So what we found for our customers is that a modern data stack is really the best way to wrangle all of that data, so that way you can keep that empowerment going. So everyone can have access to those dashboards, those analytics, to understand, how did your campaign do? How are all these campaigns doing? And how are we driving revenue? So I just want to encourage you, if you haven't heard of Fivetran or used us before, like I mentioned earlier, we do have free 14-day trial. So check us out. Let us know. And thank you so much for the time today. It's been absolutely lovely to chat with you. If you have any questions, we'll be around to answer them. Thanks.